Good afternoon. Thank you for joining me. I am Precious Mzee. Welcome to Camnet TV Midday News. The headlines. Zambia's corruption rate increases, TIZ. Inflation rate for January hits 21.5%, highest in 56 months. Join me with the details after this commercial.
2021 is finally here. Zambia is at the crossroads heading towards general elections this August. In the world where fake news, biased reporting on national issues has become the order of the day, in a world where social media in most cases spills lies and exaggerated information, insightful coverage, Zambia needs one media. Living in a country where people are slowly promoting tribalism, hatred, bitterness and revenge, political temperature is heating up and people's hearts are perplexed. Zambia needs one media. Zambia being a Christian nation living under the lordship of Jesus Christ, the nation cannot afford a compromised gospel. Zambia needs a prophetic media house. For hope, peace and unity, Zambia needs Camnet television for non-biased, factual reporting, balanced opinion, accurate news coverage. Zambia needs Camnet television for national projects and development of our beloved country Zambia. Watch Camnet TV on channel 274 DSTV, channel 98 on Go TV and channel 106 on Topstar. Remember, Camnet TV is not just another channel.
And other midday news in detail. Home Affairs Minister Stephen Kampyongo says the suspect of the killing of a state prosecutor in Nsama and a United Party for National Development UPND sympathizer Joseph Kaunda has been identified. Mr. Kampyongo has however not stated the identity and occupation of the suspect who put the trigger and ended the lives of two innocent citizens in cold blood could not be revealed. Speaking on the floor of Parliament, they are rising from that incident in which two people lost their lives. Several measures have been put in place to prevent the loss of life. He says government will, among other things, introduce the training of officers on the recently acquired specialized equipment for effective crowd management. He further says routine station lecture on the use of firearms and parades will be conducted to assess the ability of officers to handle firearms before being assigned duties.
Director of Public Prosecutions has made a decision, because as it is, this is how far I can go, Madam Speaker. The rest is to follow after the decision of the Director of Public Prosecutions. I thank you. But like I said, Madam Speaker, where lawlessness or where disorderly activities take place, the risk of having casualties is very high, and you need to have officers well trained to deal with various situations. But I want to assure the honorable member that the only reason why we are proud to say Zambia is a peaceful nation for all these years is because we have had effective police. Yes, there could be shortcomings in one incident or another, and those shortcomings we need to acknowledge them and deal with them. But overall, when we say Zambia is a peaceful nation, we are saying Zambia is effectively policed.
Transparency International Zambia chapter has described corruption as an epidemic that has robbed many countries the much-needed development, Zambia inclusive. Speaking during the presentation of the 2020 Corruption Perception Index, TIZ chapter President Sampa Kalumba says Zambia's corruption levels are increasing as evidenced from the CPI report, which shows that Zambia has dropped one place. Mr. Sampa says this can be attributed to the reduction in prosecuting illegal corruption cases by the law enforcement agencies such as the Anti-Corruption Commission. Meanwhile, Anti-Corruption Commission has called on all citizens to take keen interest in the fight against corruption if the fight is to be won.
There is no doubt that corruption cripples economies worldwide. If a country has high corruption levels, its developmental aspirations will only move at a snail's pace. This is the case of Zambia, whose corruption index has moved down by one place according to the Corruption Perception Index. The index, which is aggregated by at least 3 sources, with Zambia having 13 sources, shows that Zambia has moved from 34 to 33rd place out of 100 in 2020. The index is measured from 0 to 100, with 0 being the most corrupt and 100 faring well. Unfortunately, between a year, Zambia has dropped a place by 1, an indication that corruption is increasing. Transparency International Zambia chapter president Sampaka Lungu has attributed this to high irregularities in the procurement system, citing the questionable awarding of a $17 million contract for the supply of defective kits, among other reasons.
2019 further dropped a point to 34, and in 2020 we have dropped even further to 33. The 2020 rank of 117 out of 180 countries also shows a 4-point drop from the 2019 ranking of 113 out of 180 countries. Corruption is endemic in Zambia and affects people's access to essential public services.
In speaking on a panel of discussion, Gears Initiative Executive Director McDonough Jipenzi has called for the revision of appointments of organizational heads so that they operate independently.
The issue of appointing Director Generals, the IGs of this world, so that their accountability is to the people, is to the state, and not to the appointing authority. Second, we have to go back in the Constitution. For example, you are talking of the president not being subject to any civil and criminal proceedings when they are in office or he or she is in office. Now imagine, if the president cannot be put to scrutiny, what do you expect?
Meanwhile, the Anti-Corruption Commission also gave their thought on the fight against corruption.
Is not perfect. Definitely we need to improve. There are some areas, like in the Anti-Corruption Act, the sentencing regime within the Act is not deterrent enough. So we have since engaged the government to try and make sure that this Act is reviewed to include sentences that are prohibitive to whom the offenders. Apart from that, we have also engaged the government to try and come up with specialized courts that will specifically deal with corruption cases. This, we believe, will enhance the disposal of cases in courts of law.
Sharon Kalimbula, Camnet News, Lusaka.
In other news, the January 2021 inflation rate has increased by 2.3% from 19.2% recorded in December 2020 to 21.5%. Zambia's Statistics Agency Interim Statistician General Mlenga Msepa has attributed this sharp increase in inflation rate to the price upsurge in food items such as bread and cereals, meal, maize grain, among others. Meanwhile, the country's total trade for the period of January to December 2020 was recorded at about 242 billion kwacha compared to 184 billion in 2019, representing a 32% increase despite the outbreak of the COVID-19.
Inflation, also referred to as the rate at which a value of a currency is falling, or the overall increase in the prices of items, or the increase in the cost of living of a country, has hit record high in Zambia, the highest in 4 years. January's annual inflation is now at 21.5%, and this has been attributed to the increase in the prices of food items such as meal, meat, fish, cereals, oils, vegetables, and others. And while the local currency has continued to depreciate against other major currencies, with one United States dollars now trading at 21.41 kwacha. Food inflation has also increased to 25.6% in January 2021 compared to 2.2% in December 2020. Zambian Statistics Agency Interim Statistician General Musepa Mlenga addressed the media Thursday morning.
Inflation in the month of January was recorded at 21.5%. That is basically an increase from 19.2% in December 2020. We are seeing much of this being driven by non-maize food items. And these items basically have got bread and cereals, meats, fish, and vegetables. These have been the main drivers of inflation right from last year.
Meanwhile, non-food inflation rate for January 2021 increased to 1.3%, and this development has been attributed to price movement of purchasing of vehicles, private school fees, and college fees.
Fees, that is private. Okay? I must have said secondly, but it's private primary school fees. This is where you see some more noticeable movement in terms of the fees over the 12-month period, more than doubling from 1,206 to 2,866. That's on average. But also in secondary school fees, I think that there isn't basically much there, the movement. The colleges, the movement. There's been some kind of intervention, I think, in government colleges. But this, again, these are the things I was saying. The various institutions now can go there, mine, and see what's happening there, to see whether there are any policy interventions that we need to undertake.
And while COVID-19 impacted the world with economies shutting their borders, Zambia's trade for the period January to December 2020 stands at 241.89 billion kwacha compared to 183.20 billion kwacha in 2019.
It was higher by 30.2% compared to 2019, and those are the numbers that you actually see. 241.89 billion in 2020 compared to 183.2 billion in 2019.
The impact of the Zambian kwacha depreciating against major currencies has continued to negatively affect businesses and households, and the results are being felt with the country's inflation rate surging higher than ever. Fiscal discipline remains key at ensuring economic stability. Prudence Chota for Camnet TV News.
In other news, 3 small-scale farmers have been arrested by the Drug Enforcement Commission in Wapule Province for unlawful cultivation of fresh cannabis plants weighing 1.2 tons contrary to Cap 96 of the laws of Zambia. Details are that 3 were apprehended during a special operation conducted in Chienge district of Wapule Province on the 24th of January 2021 following concerns raised by local residents. Commission's Public Relations Officer Teresa Katongo says those arrested are jointly charged include Samson Mumbi, male aged 48 of Mkosa village, Paul Kabwe, male aged 22 of Kazembe village, and John Makai, aged 45, also of Mkosa village in Chienge district. Well, that news item brings us to the end of Camnet TV Midday News, but before we go, the headlines once again. Zambia's corruption rate increase, TIZ. Inflation rate for January hits 21.5%, highest in 56 months. Thank you for joining me. I am Precious Mzea Sakaleji. Always remember to wear your mask, avoid crowded places, wash your hands for at least 20 seconds, or use alcohol-based hand sanitizer, and keep a distance of at least 1 meter. Good afternoon and stay safe.